In the year 2157, strange lights appeared in Earth's sky. These weren't stars or satellites. They were massive ships belonging to the Xorlian Empire, a powerful civilization that ruled most of the known galaxy. Admiral Sam Porter stood at the United Nations headquarters in New York, staring at the large screen showing the alien vessels. His weathered face remained calm despite the chaos around him. At 53, Porter had seen many crises during his military career, but nothing like this. "They're requesting to speak with Earth's leaders," said Lisa Blackwell, the UN representative who had been chosen to handle first contact. Her voice remained steady, though her hands gripped her tablet tightly. Within hours, world leaders gathered in an emergency session. The alien transmission was patched through to the main screen, revealing a tall, blue-skinned being with 4 eyes and a formal uniform adorned with unfamiliar symbols. "I am High Counselor Drekthar of the Xorlian Empire," the alien announced in perfect English. "We have been observing your world for some time. Your species has shown remarkable progress despite your isolation. The Emperor has decided to extend an invitation for Earth to join our galactic community as a protected world." Lisa stepped forward. "We appreciate your offer, High Counselor. What exactly does becoming a protected world mean?" Drekthar's upper eyes narrowed slightly. "You would benefit from our advanced technology, medicine, and defense systems. In exchange, Earth would provide resources and accept imperial governance. It is a generous offer, one that most worlds eagerly accept." Porter noticed the careful wording. This wasn't an invitation. It was a demand dressed up in diplomatic language. "And if we decline?" he asked bluntly. The alien's expression hardened. Those who refuse imperial protection often face difficulties, cosmic dangers, trade isolation, sometimes internal conflicts. The galaxy is not safe for lone worlds. The threat was clear. After the transmission ended, Earth's leaders debated frantically. Some wanted to accept the Empire's terms, arguing that resistance against such advanced beings would be suicide. Others preferred to fight, even against impossible odds. Porter and Blackwell worked through the night, reviewing what little information they had about the Xorlians. By morning, they had formed a third option. "We don't accept their terms, and we don't fight them directly," Lisa explained to the assembled leaders. "Instead, we formally ban the Xorlian Empire from Earth and our entire solar system." Murmurs of confusion filled the room. Porter stepped forward. "The Xorlians value control and authority. Their entire empire is built on worlds accepting their rule as inevitable. By officially banning them, we challenge their fundamental power structure." "They'll just ignore our ban," argued the French president. "What stops them from invading anyway?" "That's where our defense strategy comes in," Porter replied. "Dr. Torres has been developing something that might give us a fighting chance." 3 days later, Lisa Blackwell stood before the alien transmission once more. Drekthar appeared impatient. "Have you accepted the Emperor's generous offer?" he demanded. Lisa took a deep breath. "High Counselor, I speak on behalf of all nations of Earth. We have considered your proposal carefully and have reached a unanimous decision." The room fell silent. Even Drekthar seemed to sense the gravity of the moment. "Earth formally bans the Xorlian Empire from our planet and our entire solar system. All imperial vessels are forbidden to enter our space. Earth is not for sale, conquest, or colonization. We declare our independence from all galactic empires." Drekthar's 4 eyes widened in shock, then narrowed with anger. "You dare to ban us? No world has ever." "This meeting is over," Lisa interrupted firmly. "You have 24 hours to remove your ships from Earth orbit. After that, we will consider any imperial vessel in our system as hostile." As the transmission cut off, Porter looked at Lisa. "And now we prepare. The real work begins." The shield. Maria Torres hadn't slept in 3 days. The chief engineer worked tirelessly in her lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by screens, circuits, and empty coffee cups. At 38, she had already revolutionized quantum computing, but her current project dwarfed everything she'd ever done. "How's the power flow looking?" she asked her assistant, Ben Miller. "Holding at 93%, Ben replied, his eyes fixed on the monitors. "Better than yesterday." Maria nodded, allowing herself a small smile. When the Xorlians arrived, her experimental defense project had been years from completion. Now, with the fate of Earth at stake, her team worked around the clock to make the impossible happen. The Aegis system wasn't a conventional defense shield. It used Earth's natural magnetic field as a foundation, amplifying it with a network of satellites that could bend spacetime itself. Any ship attempting to breach the shield wouldn't hit a solid barrier. Instead, it would be gently but firmly redirected elsewhere. 6 days after Earth's ban declaration, the Xorlian Empire made its first move. Admiral Porter watched from mission control as 12 Imperial warships approached Earth's orbit. "They're testing our resolve," he said grimly. "Time to see if Dr. Torrid's shield works." Maria stood nearby, her fingers tapping nervously on her tablet. "Aegis system activated," she announced. "Power at full capacity." Everyone watched the large screen showing the approaching alien ships. The lead vessel, massive and predatory-looking, moved confidently toward Earth. "They're entering the outer shield perimeter now," Ben reported. A strange ripple appeared around the Imperial ships. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the ships began to distort, stretching oddly before vanishing with brief flashes of blue light. "Where did they go?" asked Lisa Blackwell, who had joined them in the control room. Maria checked her readings. The shield worked exactly as designed. It created localized space-time distortions around each vessel, redirecting them to random coordinates between 5 and 20 light-years away. "So they're not destroyed?" Porter asked. "No, just relocated, scattered across different sectors of space," Maria explained. "Their crews are unharmed, but it will take them weeks to regroup, and they'll have no idea how we did it." Security footage from the Imperial ships, later intercepted by Earth's intelligence services, showed the confusion on the Xorlian bridge. High Commander Vexol, leader of the First Fleet, roared in frustration as his navigation officers tried to explain how they had instantly traveled 18 light-years from their target. "Impossible," the commander shouted. "No primitive world has such technology." On Earth, celebrations erupted as news spread that the shield had worked. But Maria Torres didn't join the parties. She returned to her lab, already working on improvements. "They'll be back," she told her team. "And they'll be smarter about it next time." Over the next month, Maria expanded the Aegis system. New satellites were launched, and ground stations were built at strategic points around the planet. The shield grew stronger and more sophisticated. 3 separate Imperial probes attempted to penetrate Earth's defenses. Each disappeared and reappeared far away. The last probe found itself materializing inside an uninhabited asteroid field, suffering damage before limping back to Imperial space. Lisa Blackwell addressed the United Nations a month after the first shield test. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a supposedly primitive world has successfully repelled the Xorlian Empire. But this is just the beginning. They're embarrassed and angry. Their next move will be more calculated. Admiral Porter nodded in agreement. "We've won the first battle, but not the war. The Empire controls thousands of worlds and has technologies we can barely imagine. We need more than just a shield to survive." "Then we'll build more," Maria said firmly. "And while we defend ourselves, we'll need to find allies out there. Earth can't stand alone forever." The diplomat, Jack Reynolds, straightened his tie as the small Earth shuttle approached the space station. Through the viewport, he could see the massive structure floating against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. The neutral trading post of Calyx served as a meeting point for dozens of alien species, none of whom were formally allied with the Xorlian Empire. "First time in space?" asked the pilot, noticing Jack's tight grip on the armrests. "First time beyond our solar system," Jack admitted. At 45, He had been a respected diplomat on Earth, negotiating complex treaties between nations. Now he represented all of humanity to the wider galaxy. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. Jack gathered his materials and took a deep breath. Earth's strategy was bold but dangerous. While maintaining the ban against the Empire, they would reach out to other civilizations, seeking allies and information. As Jack stepped into the station, he was immediately struck by the diversity of life forms moving through the wide corridors. Six-legged creatures conversed with floating gas-filled beings. Tall, graceful aliens with iridescent skin bartered with short, stocky traders covered in fur. Jack followed his guide, a gray-skinned being named Krell, to the diplomatic quarter. Many are curious about Earth, Krell explained in a translator-enhanced voice. No world has ever banned the Empire and survived. We plan to be the first, Jack replied with more confidence than he felt. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Captain Laura Wright led training exercises for Earth's defense fleet. Their ships were small and few compared to Imperial vessels, but they had one advantage: knowledge of how the Aegis shield worked. Again, Laura shouted to her pilots, "If you can't navigate the shield patterns perfectly, you're no good to me." The Earth vessels practiced complex maneuvers, learning to slip through specific harmonic points in the shield that would allow their return while keeping enemies out. On Galactic Station, Jack attended his first diplomatic meeting. Representatives from 7 different worlds sat around a circular table, studying the human with obvious curiosity. "We understand your world has inconvenienced the Empire," said a reptilian delegate named Srath. "This is most unusual." Jack nodded. "Earth values its independence. We believe all worlds should determine their own fate." "Noble words," replied a crystalline being that introduced itself as Exi. "But the Empire has 5 million ships and rules over 30,000 worlds. You have one planet and a clever shield." "True," Jack acknowledged. "But sometimes the smallest stone can cause the largest ripple." Over the next several days, Jack shared information about Earth's culture, history, and technology, careful not to reveal the secrets of the Aegis system. In return, he learned valuable facts about the Empire's structure, its vulnerabilities, and most importantly, the growing discontent among its subject worlds. "The Eclorlians rule through fear and the belief that resistance is futile," explained Mira, a delegate from a world that had been under Imperial control for centuries. "Your defiance has created questions." Jack sent encrypted reports back to Earth. Admiral Porter and Lisa Blackwell reviewed them with growing hope. "We're gaining friends out there," Lisa noted. "Not formal allies yet, but seeds of support." "Just in time," Porter replied grimly. "Our intelligence indicates the Empire is preparing a more sophisticated approach. Their initial attack was rushed and arrogant. The next one won't be." On his final day at Galactic Station, Jack was approached by a hooded figure in a quiet corridor. "Human," the stranger whispered, "I have information for Earth. The Empire fears you more than they admit, not for your shield or your technology, but for the idea you represent." "What idea is that?" Jack asked. "That defiance is possible, that freedom can be chosen." The figure pressed a data crystal into Jack's hand. "Many watch Earth now, hoping you will succeed where others have failed." As Jack's shuttle departed for Earth, he knew they had gained something more valuable than advanced weapons or ships. They had ignited hope across the stars. The infiltration. Colonel Eric Freeman studied the image on his tablet with narrowed eyes. The surveillance photo showed an ordinary-looking man entering a coffee shop in Seattle. Nothing seemed unusual about him except for one detail. 3 months ago, this person didn't exist. "How many have we identified so far?" Eric asked his team gathered in the underground command center. 17 confirmed, replied Agent Kelly Wong. All with perfect cover identities. All arrived within weeks of each other on various commercial transports before we tightened security. Eric nodded grimly. Earth's ban of the Thorlian Empire had held for 6 months now. The shield created by Dr. Torres had repelled direct attacks, But the Empire had found a more subtle approach: infiltration. "They look completely human," said Ryan Cooper, the team's technology expert. "Our tests show they're using some kind of biological disguise, not mechanical." "What are they after?" Eric wondered aloud. The answer came 3 days later when a security breach was detected at one of the Aegis Shield control stations in Australia. Security cameras showed a maintenance worker placing a small device near the main power conduits before being stopped by guards. When questioned, the infiltrator revealed nothing, but the device told them everything they needed to know. It was designed to create a momentary gap in the shield, large enough for an Imperial strike force to enter Earth's atmosphere. "They're trying to take down the shield from the inside," Eric reported to Admiral Porter during an emergency meeting. "And these aren't just spies. They've been modified to look human, which means this operation was planned long before we even encountered the Empire." "How do we find the rest of them?" Lisa Blackwell asked. "If they look human and have perfect cover stories, we don't find them," Eric replied. "We let them find us." The counterintelligence operation began immediately. False information about a shield maintenance schedule was deliberately leaked through channels the infiltrators were known to monitor. The bait was set: a suggestion that the entire Aegis system would be offline for 5 minutes during an upgrade. Eric and his team waited at the primary control facility in Colorado. When 3 infiltrators attempted to access the main computer core during the supposed maintenance window, they were captured. One of the prisoners eventually broke under questioning. What he revealed surprised everyone. "The Empire doesn't just want to conquer Earth," Eric explained to the Security Council. "They're afraid of us, not our technology or our military. They fear the idea of Earth." "The idea?" Porter asked. "What does that mean?" "Our defiance is spreading," Eric continued. "According to our prisoner, several worlds that have been under Imperial control for generations are showing signs of resistance. They're using Earth as an example, a symbol that standing up to the Empire is possible." The interrogation also revealed another crucial fact. The infiltrators were sending regular reports through a hidden communications device located in northern Canada. Rather than destroy it, Eric proposed a better plan. "We feed them information, let them think they're succeeding. Meanwhile, we use their own communication channel to learn more about Imperial operations." For the next few weeks, Eric's team monitored all messages sent through the alien device. They learned about Imperial fleet movements, command structures, and, most valuable of all, the growing unrest throughout the Empire. "It's not just a few worlds," Eric told Porter and Blackwell. "Dozens of planets are watching what happens to Earth. If we continue to keep the Empire out, others might follow our example. So we're not just defending Earth anymore," Lisa realized. "We're providing hope to oppressed worlds across the galaxy." "That's why the Empire is getting desperate," Eric agreed. "They can't afford to let the ban stand. Our shield protects us physically, but our defiance threatens their entire power structure." As if to confirm his words, intelligence reports soon indicated a new Imperial force was gathering at the edge of the solar system. This wouldn't be a small probing attack. Admiral Zevrax, one of the Empire's most decorated commanders, had arrived with the 7th Armada, a battle group designed for one purpose: to crush planetary resistance at any cost. "They're coming in force this time," Eric said grimly. "And they won't underestimate us again." The challenge. The enormous ships of the Xorlian 7th Armada filled the view screens in Earth's Defense Command Center. 83 vessels, each larger than anything humanity had built, formed a crescent shape at the edge of the solar system. At their center floated the imposing flagship of Admiral Zevrax, a veteran of 100 planetary conquests. "They're not rushing in this time," Admiral Porter observed, his face grim in the blue light of the displays. "They're being methodical." Dr. Olivia Martinez, who had taken over the Aegis Shield project after Maria Torres' promotion, studied the incoming data with concern. At 34, she had already made significant improvements to the original shield design. "They're scanning our defenses," she reported, looking for patterns and weaknesses. These ships have much more sophisticated sensors than the first wave. Small Imperial probe ships approached the shield boundary at different points, testing its response. Each was redirected by the shield, but Olivia noticed something troubling. "They're learning," she told Porter. "Each probe is staying within our shield influence a fraction longer before being redirected. They're mapping how it works." The command center buzzed with activity as Earth's defense forces prepared for what seemed inevitable. The shield would eventually fail against such a determined and powerful enemy. Commander Paul Wilson, a tactical officer who had studied ancient Earth military history, approached Porter with an unusual suggestion. "Sir, I think we're approaching this the wrong way," he said. "We can't match their firepower, but maybe we don't need to." "Explain," Porter said. "Instead of just trying to keep them out, what if we use the shield offensively?" Paul brought up a diagram on the main screen. "Dr. Martinez has given us precise control over where redirected ships reappear. What if we sent them a message they couldn't ignore?" The plan was daring. Rather than random redirections, the shield would be reprogrammed to place the Imperial ships in a specific pattern when they attempted to breach Earth's defenses. It would require perfect timing and calculations. Olivia and her team worked through the night, modifying the shield's algorithms. "We'll only get one chance at this," she warned. "If they realize what we're doing, they'll change their approach." 3 days later, Admiral Zevrax ordered his first coordinated attack. 20 battleships moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charged. From his command throne on the flagship, Zevrax watched with confidence. He had never failed to crush a rebellion. "The primitive shield cannot withstand a synchronized assault," he told his officers. "Today we restore the Empire's honor." The Imperial ships hit the shield boundary simultaneously. For a moment, it seemed they might break through as the shield flickered under the strain. Then, one by one, each ship vanished in a flash of blue light. On board the Imperial flagship, confusion erupted as officers tried to locate the missing vessels. When the sensor operator finally found them, he couldn't believe his eyes. "Admiral," he said hesitantly, "our ships have reappeared, but they're arranged in a pattern." The 20 Imperial battleships had been placed in a formation visible from space, the ancient Earth symbol for peace, a circle with lines dividing it into sections. A message arrived from Earth, displayed on the Admiral's private screen. "We can place your ships anywhere in this sector of space. We choose peace over destruction. Will you?" For the first time in his long career, Admiral Zevrax felt uncertainty. The display of control was unlike anything he had encountered. These humans hadn't just defended themselves, they had demonstrated restraint. They could have scattered his ships across the galaxy or placed them in dangerous proximity to stars or black holes. Instead, they had created a symbol. "Shall we prepare the second wave, Admiral?" his second-in-command asked. Zevrax stared at the screen showing his battleships arranged in the peace symbol. "No," he said finally. "Hold position. I need to report this to the Emperor personally." On Earth, Porter looked at the Imperial fleet, still poised at the edge of the solar system, but no longer advancing. "They'd stopped," he said quietly. "But for how long?" Commander Wilson nodded toward the display. "Long enough for word of this to spread." Every world watching this confrontation just saw something remarkable. The mighty 7th Armada, brought to a standstill not by superior firepower, but by a symbol of peace. The revolution. Professor Daniel Garcia was surprised to find visitors waiting outside his university office. The three beings looked almost human except for their pale blue skin and slightly larger eyes. They wore simple clothes that seemed designed to attract minimal attention. "Professor Garcia," the tallest one asked, "we've come a long way to speak with you." Daniel hesitated. As a historian specializing in peaceful revolutions throughout Earth's history, he was used to students seeking his knowledge. But these were clearly not students. "Who are you?" he asked cautiously. "My name is Lyra," The visitor replied. "We are from Velox Prime, a world that has been under Imperial control for 3 centuries. We came to learn how Earth resists." Over the next few hours, Daniel listened to their story. Velox Prime was just one of many worlds where news of Earth's continued defiance had sparked hope. Imperial censors tried to block all information about the rebellious planet, but rumors spread anyway. "The story of your peace symbol maneuver has reached even the most controlled worlds," Lyra explained. "People are asking, if Earth can say no to the Empire, why can't we?" By the end of the week, representatives from 6 other worlds had secretly arrived on Earth, seeking guidance. Daniel found himself teaching concepts he had only studied academically: peaceful resistance, civil disobedience, and the power of unified action. "Our species has fought many oppressors throughout history," he told the assembled aliens in a secured conference room. "We've learned that sometimes the strongest resistance isn't violent. It's simply refusing to cooperate." Meanwhile, in a different part of the world, technical specialist Kate Summers made an important discovery. While analyzing intercepted Imperial communications, she noticed a pattern. "Their entire network is built on standard protocols," she explained to her team. "They've never needed to hide their communications because no one has challenged them for thousands of years." Kate realized this vulnerability could be exploited. Earth couldn't match the Empire's military might, but perhaps it could win the information war. She developed a system that could piggyback on Imperial signals, allowing Earth to broadcast messages directly to worlds under Imperial control. Admiral Porter reviewed her proposal with mixed feelings. "This could provoke them further," he warned. "Or it could be our most powerful weapon," Lisa Blackwell countered. "The Empire's greatest strength is the belief that they can't be opposed. If we break that illusion—" The first broadcast was simple: footage of Earth's cities continuing normal life despite the Imperial Armada lurking at the edge of the solar system. The message was clear: life goes on. The Empire is not all-powerful. The response was immediate and unexpected. On dozens of worlds, people gathered in public spaces, silently forming the same peace symbol that Earth had created with the Imperial ships. The demonstrations were peaceful but unmistakable in their meaning. The Empire responded with harsh crackdowns, but this only strengthened the resistance. Each act of Imperial brutality was recorded and rebroadcast by Earth's new communication system. Kate and her team worked around the clock to stay ahead of Imperial attempts to block their signals. Daniel Garcia found himself coordinating with resistance leaders across the galaxy, sharing lessons from Earth's history of overcoming tyranny. "Remember," he told them during encrypted communications, "your greatest strength is unity and persistence. The Empire rules through fear. When people stop being afraid, the Empire's power begins to crumble." On Velox Prime, Lyra and her companions organized the first major work stoppage in their world's history. Imperial factories stood idle as workers simply stayed home. When Imperial troops arrived to force them back to work, they found empty streets and locked doors. Similar acts of passive resistance spread to other worlds. Imperial governors found themselves unable to maintain control without resorting to increasing violence, which only fueled more resistance. "It's working," Lisa Blackwell told the Earth Security Council, showing footage from across the galaxy. "The Empire is facing internal pressures unlike anything in its history." Admiral Porter nodded thoughtfully. "They can fight armies. They can crush armed rebellions. But they have no strategy for dealing with billions of people who simply refuse to obey." As reports of unrest reached the imperial capital, Emperor Xorel VI faced a growing crisis. For the first time in the Empire's 10,000-year history, its authority was being questioned not just on one world, but on thousands simultaneously. All because Earth had said no. The new beginning. The single Imperial ship approached Earth's solar system slowly, broadcasting on all frequencies. Unlike the warships that had come before, this vessel bore the golden markings of Imperial royalty. Earth's defense systems tracked its movements carefully. "It's definitely the Emperor's personal transport," confirmed Admiral Porter, studying the readings. No weapons charge. They're requesting permission to enter our system under diplomatic protocol. Lisa Blackwell looked skeptical. After everything they've tried, now they want to talk. The reports from our allies are clear, Porter replied. The Empire is facing rebellions on hundreds of worlds. Their military is stretched thin trying to maintain control. After careful consideration, Earth agreed to the meeting, but with strict conditions. The Imperial vessel would remain at the neutral station constructed at the edge of the solar system. Only the Emperor and 3 aides would be allowed to board. Ambassador Jack Reynolds prepared to face the ruler of the largest empire the galaxy had ever known. He reviewed his notes one final time before entering the station's conference room. Emperor Xorel VI was not what Jack expected. Rather than the imposing figure portrayed in Imperial propaganda, he appeared tired, his blue skin dull with stress, his 4 eyes showing signs of exhaustion. Ambassador Reynolds, the Emperor spoke first. I come to discuss terms for peace between Earth and the Xorlian Empire. Jack kept his expression neutral. Earth has never sought conflict with the Empire. We simply declare our independence and our right to determine our own future. The Emperor made a gesture that his translator indicated was acknowledgement. A simple act that has caused complex consequences throughout our territories. For the next several hours, they negotiated. The Emperor wanted Earth to stop broadcasting to Imperial worlds. Jack insisted on recognition of Earth's sovereignty and the right of all worlds to self-governance. What you ask would fundamentally change the Empire. Xorel argued. Perhaps it needs to change. Jack replied calmly. The old ways of conquest and control are no longer working. You've seen this yourself. By the 3rd day of negotiations, they reached an agreement that would become known as the Sol Accords. The Empire would recognize Earth's independence and establish non-interference zones around other worlds that requested similar status. In return, Earth would help facilitate peaceful transitions and share some of its technologies. This is not surrender, the Emperor told his advisors when they objected. It is survival. We adapt or we collapse entirely. The signing ceremony was broadcast throughout the galaxy. As Emperor Xorel and Ambassador Reynolds placed their signatures on the document, billions of beings on thousands of worlds watched in amazement. The mighty Xorlian Empire, which had expanded unchecked for millennia, had compromised with a single planet that had been in space for less than a century. Back on Earth, Admiral Porter and Lisa Blackwell watched the broadcast from the same room where they had first declared the ban against the Empire. Did you ever imagine it would end like this? Lisa asked. Porter shook his head. Never. I was just hoping we'd survive. It's not really an ending, Lisa observed. It's a beginning. For us and for all those other worlds. In the months that followed, the galaxy changed rapidly. 57 worlds immediately applied for the same independent status that Earth had secured. The Empire, rather than fighting these claims, worked with Earth to establish new relationships based on trade and cooperation, rather than domination. Professor Daniel Garcia found himself teaching not just resistance tactics, but also reconciliation strategies. History shows us that how peace is built matters as much as how wars are won, he told delegates from former imperial worlds. Dr. Olivia Martinez modified the Aegis Shield technology to help protect newly independent planets, while Kate Summers developed communication systems that connected these worlds in a new network of free information exchange. 1 year after the signing of the Sol Accords, Earth hosted the first Galactic Council of Independent Worlds. Representatives from over 200 planets gathered to discuss common challenges and opportunities. Even the Xorlian Empire sent delegates, now participating as equals rather than conquerors. As Admiral Porter watched the diverse beings fill the council chamber, he remembered the simple act that had started it all. Earth's declaration banning the Empire from its space. Sometimes, he said to Lisa Blackwell, who stood beside him, the bravest thing isn't fighting back. It's simply having the courage to say no when everyone expects you to say yes. Lisa nodded. And sometimes, that small word can change a galaxy.